rule-breaking birthday party. We reveal his secret lockdown do in Downing Street.
Happy birthday to you.
Just hours after this visit to a school in June 2020, up to 30 people gathered at number 10 to celebrate the Prime Minister's birthday, while the rest of the country was banned from doing the same.
This is yet more evidence that we've got a Prime Minister who believes that the rules that he made don't apply to him.
And the PM's problems today don't stop there. Now an inquiry into claims of Islamophobia. Also tonight, as Russian forces build, the Foreign Office pulls around half its staff out of its embassy in Kiev. The highway code's about to change. We'll have all the details. And we meet Stan Moody, the schoolboy taking snooker by storm.
This is the ITV Evening News with Charlene White.
Good evening. ITV News can reveal tonight Boris Johnson held a lockdown birthday party inside Downing Street on what could be the most damaging allegations against him yet. It was held in June 2020 during the first lockdown, and as many as 30 people attended. At the time, social gatherings indoors were banned, but we understand the Prime Minister's wife, Carrie, gave him a cake and led a chorus of happy birthday. Downing Street says the event was organised and attended by number 10 staff, and it denied a party was later held with friends inside Mr Johnson's flat. Here's our UK editor Paul Brand on yet more claims of rule breaking.
Happy birthday to you.
A few hours after these school children wished him a happy birthday, Boris Johnson would enjoy a happier one than most.
Thank you very much, everybody.
Following this official visit on June the 19th, 2020, ITV News can reveal he was off to another event behind closed doors.
Thank you.
In the Cabinet Room, where the Prime Minister had stood in silence for key workers who died in the pandemic just a few weeks earlier, a nation's sacrifice was about to be forgotten. Just after 2 p.m, this table was laid out with party food from Marks & Spencer. As many as 30 staff gathered around it, ready for Boris Johnson to return. His wife, Carrie, surprised him with a cake and led a chorus of happy birthday, singing filling the house, where the week before the Prime Minister had struck a very different note, as he outlined what fresh guidance did and did not allow.
Meeting inside other people's homes, because that remains against the law.
But not, it seems, for the Downing Street designer, whose styling's already sparked a separate scandal. ITV News understands Lulu Little joined the party, in between redecorating the Prime Minister's flat. We're told the event that afternoon lasted 20 to 30 minutes, but later that evening, ITV News understands family friends also went up to the Prime Minister's residence, though Downing Street deny this.
This is yet more evidence that we've got a Prime Minister who believes that the rules that he made don't apply to him. And so we've got a Prime Minister and a government that spend their whole time mopping up sleaze and deceit. The Prime Minister is a national distraction, and he's got to go.
Among those who did change birthday plans that year, the Queen, who watched her scaled-back celebrations without family.
Hey, you're 90 today, Emily.
And millions more of us, like Jackie, who we filmed wishing her mum happy birthday over a video call. Dementia means it's the last she'd have been aware of.
He's got memories of his birthday. My memories is on there, where I just cry every time I watch them. That's my memories of my mum. I look at my memories of my mum and I cry, because they're not happy memories. He's robbed me of that. And he's still Prime Minister.
He is, for now, but how many more birthdays will Boris Johnson spend in here?
Yeah, there is the question, isn't it, Paul? I mean, how serious could this be for the Prime Minister?
Well, I think there's a real risk it could be terminal for his premiership, Charlene. You know, little more than a month ago, he stood up in Parliament. He said he certainly broke no rules. Well, whatever his birthday wish may have been, the rules did apply to him, and this party doesn't seem to have complied with them. In fact, tonight, Number 10 aren't denying that a party took place that afternoon. They say a group of staff working in Number 10 gathered briefly in the Cabinet room after meeting to wish the Prime Minister a happy birthday. He was there for less than 10 minutes. What they do deny is that anyone went up to the flat afterwards. They say this is totally untrue. In line with the rules at the time, the Prime Minister hosted a small number of family members outside that evening. Of course, so this all comes ahead of that report by Sue Gray, the senior civil servant who's been investigating these parties. That was due out this week. You suspect she might be doing a last-minute rewrite.
All right, Paul, thanks very much. Well, those fresh allegations came as the Prime Minister launched an internal investigation into claims of Islamophobia from one of its own MPs. Nusrat Ghani says a Conservative Party whip told her she'd been sacked as a junior transport minister because her Muslimness made colleagues uncomfortable. Our political reporter Shihab Khan has more.
This robot encompasses both of those aspects.
Unbelievable.
But it is unfortunately far too believable. Another scandal and another crisis for the Prime Minister to handle. He has launched an inquiry into claims a Muslim minister was told her religion was a reason for her being sacked. And today, while at a hospital in Milton Keynes, he tried to move the conversation on.
We take these allegations extremely seriously. I took them very seriously when they were raised with me 18 months ago. Very glad there's an investigation taking place now. Can't say more really about it, but what I can say is I'm here in Milton Keynes University Hospital focusing on what I think is one of the biggest issues facing the country and something that people really want us to fix, and that is how we come out of COVID.
Nusrat Ghani, the first female Muslim minister, informed the Prime Minister in 2020 that she had been discriminated against. 2 years later, after news of the incident broke this weekend, there will now be an inquiry. In a statement, Ms Ghani responded, saying, "All I want is for this to be taken seriously and for the Prime Minister to investigate. I welcome his decision to do that now." This former chair of the Conservative Party says they urgently need to change.
It's important that the outcome of that inquiry clearly creates a climate, a culture both within the party and in government, which sends out the message that if you are Muslim and a Conservative, then you are welcome within this Conservative Party and that you will play your full part and your Muslimness will not be a hindrance.
Hanan Sawa is an elected Conservative councillor. Furious with how this has been handled, he says he's now questioning the party he stood for.
I think fundamentally they just don't care. But I'm definitely considering whether the Conservative Party is the party that I was elected for. I have strong core Conservative values, but I think this government is not representing them, and I do hope the Prime Minister does the right thing and step aside.
This now becomes one of many issues rocking the government as pressure continues to mount almost in every direction on Boris Johnson. Shihab Khan, ITV News, Westminster.
Seems only right we go to our political editor, Robert Peston, and he's joined us in the studio. It's a difficult week for the Prime Minister, you can't deny that.
I mean, look, it's been, for the Prime Minister, the day from hell. I mean, you know, it starts with him, in effect, having to apologise to a former minister, Nusrat Ghani, in 18 months after he makes her complaint, launching an independent inquiry by the Cabinet Office into her claims that she was sacked, as you just heard, as a result of Islamophobia. We've had his Minister for Efficiency, Lord Agnew, saying he can't stand any longer. He's quitting because too many COVID loans were given without proper checks, so there's too much fraud and he can't get answers on how to sort it all out. So he's quit. We've had Dominic Cummings, the Prime Minister's estranged former chief aide, saying witnesses to the Partygate investigation are frightened in some cases to provide photos, WhatsApp messages, because they don't want recriminations, he claims, from the Prime Minister. And now we've got Paul Brown's extraordinary story about the Prime Minister holding a birthday party in Downing Street against the lockdown rules of the time back in 2020. And he also says going upstairs for another birthday party, which would have been again against the rules in his flat, Downing Street, you know, denying the latter claim. But, you know, as I understand it, we have evidence for that. So, big report this week, and I have to say, talking to Tory MPs tonight, they are not sure how the Prime Minister survives all this.
All right, Robert, thanks very much. The UK government's warned Russia that invading Ukraine would be disastrous. The Foreign Office has started pulling out some staff from the British Embassy in the capital, Kiev. NATO is putting its forces on standby. Well, our senior international correspondent, John Irvine, is in Kiev for us. John, more ominous signs?
I'm afraid so, Charlene. The Americans are doing a similar thing, pulling out some of their embassy staff here. While the ranks of the international diplomatic corps in Kiev might be thinning out, the ranks of the Russian army close to Ukraine's borders continue to swell. Last week they had an estimated 100,000 troops there. Today the Ukrainians say they have about 130,000 troops. NATO has responded to this Russian build-up by announcing that it will send more warplanes and warships to its member states in Eastern Europe. But in a sense, by announcing these reinforcements, these respective reinforcements, both NATO and Russia are doing the exact opposite of what they've asked of each other. All the while, this country, Ukraine, remains Russia's hostage under threat because NATO just won't give in to Moscow's ransom demands, and Moscow doesn't seem to be willing to water down those demands.
OK, John, thanks very much. Well, back here, coronavirus testing is being scrapped for most passengers arriving into the UK. From the 11th of February, fully vaccinated travellers will no longer need a lateral flow test on arrival. And rules have also changed for unvaccinated passengers too, scrapping the need to self-isolate. The Transport Secretary said the policy had outlived its usefulness. Airlines have welcomed the move. And nightclubs can open again, and crowd limits on indoor events have been lifted in Scotland for the first time since Boxing Day. The Scottish Government says the easing of restrictions is a significant moment, but that some COVID rules will remain in place. From Edinburgh, Hannah Miller reports.
Hoping the dance floor will never be this empty again. As nightclubs across Scotland prepare to reopen tonight, here they're recreating the New Year party they weren't allowed to have.
Just can't wait. So excited. The staff are all excited. We've been all passing messages back and forward, and here we go. We did miss out on a lot of income, and well, hopefully now everyone comes back and the party will continue right through the year now.
From today, there's no limit on the number of households that can meet indoors, and in pubs and restaurants, the 1 metre distancing rule has come to an end. But vaccine passports will be necessary in some venues, and the Scottish Government is asking people to keep working from home where possible and wear face masks on public transport and in secondary schools. The Scottish Government has admitted that these restrictions had a very adverse impact on some businesses. But with the peak of Omicron infections lower than elsewhere in the UK, people are now drawing their own conclusions as to whether it was worth it. The easing has come just in time for one of the country's biggest celebrations.
We've got Burns Night here tomorrow night, and we've certainly had an increase of bookings for that with the restrictions easing, and families being able to come out with households and screens going and people not having to do the 1 metre distancing, so it's great.
And as indoor contact sport kicks off once again, at this five-a-side game, players were glad to be back on the pitch. Are you hopeful that it's done now?
Yeah, hopefully, but we've heard that loads of times before, so can't really get too much excited about it, so you never know what's going to happen.
And many hope this will be the last time they have to deal with closures and cancellations, as Scotland continues to tread carefully in the hope of removing more restrictions soon. Hannah Miller, ITV News, Edinburgh.
And still to come in the ITV Evening News, the world has lost a bright star. The sister of a man accidentally shot and killed in the US pays tribute, and
hopefully world number one, multiple world champion, multiple Masters champion and UK champion.
The schoolboy schooling the pros at snooker. Those stories and more after the break. Welcome back. The sister of a British scientist who was shot dead in the United States has told ITV that the family have lost a bright star. Dr. Matthew Wilson, who's from Surrey, was killed as he visited his girlfriend in Georgia. Police say a stray bullet went through a wall and into his head. Chloe Keedy has more.
Matthew Wilson and his girlfriend Catherine Shepherd had just been reunited. He was visiting her in Georgia, where they met when they studied astronomy together at university.
He was supposed to be here for 3 months because we've been long distance for a while.
But 3 days into his visit, something unimaginable happened. As the couple lay in bed, they were woken up by the sound of gunshots coming from another apartment building nearby. Somehow, a bullet found its way through a wall and hit Matthew in the head.
And I held him for another 20 minutes while we waited for the ambulance. And while we were waiting, there were more gunshots fired. Yeah, and I was just trying to keep him there, talking to him.
The 31-year-old from Surrey was taken to hospital, but doctors couldn't save him. His family have this message for whoever fired the shot.
Guns aren't toys. This isn't for fun. Guns are weapons and they're dangerous. And because of their actions, we've lost a really bright star from our universe.
Police have described what happened here as a random, reckless act. But Matthew's family say they will never recover from its consequences. Chloe Keedy, ITV News.
A woman's been stabbed to death and the man thought to be attacking her has also died after being hit by a car in West London. It happened this morning at around 9 a.m. The fire brigade were able to free the man as he was trapped under the vehicle, but both victims died at the scene. Julian Assange has won the first stage of his attempt to appeal against extradition to the US. The WikiLeaks founder, who is in prison in London, is wanted in America over the alleged leak of thousands of secret documents. And 3 women have broken the world record for rowing across the Atlantic. Kat Cordner, who has incurable cancer, and teammates Abby Johnston and Charlotte Irving arrived in Antigua last night after 42 days at sea. Changes to the highway code come into force this weekend, but according to the AA, a third of drivers don't know that. The rule changes are to help protect vulnerable road users like pedestrians and cyclists. Around 25,000 people die or are seriously injured on Britain's roads each year. Here's Martha Fairley.
Mirror again, look at the cyclist on my right. And
Ken Kang usually trains driving instructors in Maidenhead. Today he's showing ITV News how changes to the highway code will affect road users.
This is the new awareness bit. We've got to anticipate, obviously we all do this, that these people aren't going to step out onto the road.
Vehicle drivers will have more responsibility to look out for cyclists, pedestrians or horse riders, and cyclists will have to be more aware of pedestrians.
We already know that we should be giving way to people on the road and we should wait for them to clear. So these sort of things, we just have to emphasise it more and the importance of why they're set.
From Saturday, drivers are to give way to pedestrians at junctions. Drivers should leave a 1.5 metre gap when overtaking cyclists, and cyclists should ride in the middle of the road in slow traffic, quiet roads, and where it's unsafe for drivers to overtake to make themselves more visible. The new hierarchy of road users is intended to make things safer for cyclists, but also those on foot.
So we have a greater responsibility towards pedestrians now. So that's an introduction this rule brings in. So this wasn't brought in just to benefit cyclists, for example. The biggest beneficiary really should be pedestrians.
But road safety campaigners say there hasn't been enough warning of the changes.
There's nothing coming from the government itself, and these changes come into law on the 29th of January. So we really need something by then. It's no good bringing something in the middle of February or March, for example. This needs to be in when the law changes and the advice changes come into force.
In all, 49 rules are being updated, but the Highway Code says it's still everyone's responsibility to consider their own and other road users' safety. Martha Fairley, ITV News in Maidenhead.
A pet pufferfish whose teeth had grown so large she could barely eat has undergone life-saving surgery. Goldie was taken to the dentist by her owner because of her overgrown beak. Usually pufferfish teeth can be worn down by food, but Goldie wasn't eating the right food. Expert vets in Kent were able to trim her beak and now she's happily back home. And finally tonight, to the schoolboy taking the snooker world by storm. 15-year-old Stan Moody made a stunning debut in his first major tournament, beating world number 31 Lu Ning. And he's only been playing the sport for 6 years. Sangeeta Lal went to meet him.
It was a long shot that paid off.
A chance or two. Oh, fabulous.
This was the first time Stan has played at this level. Unfazed by cameras or crowds, though, he beat professional player Lu Ning.
What a debut.
At 15 years old, making his name the one to watch.
Magnificent stuff from Stan Moody.
It's what you dream of, isn't it? Walking out to a crowd and going like that, because obviously a lot of people came to watch me and it was just nice to, you know, give them like the long red.
Stan picked up his first cue at 10 years old and quickly showed he had more to prove.
What got you into it when you first started?
I went on holiday in 2015 and there were a pool table next to our room, and it just fascinated me, all the different coloured balls, and I asked my dad how to, you know, do the bridge hand, and from then on I loved it.
Similar red to Thursday, Stan.
Yeah.
Same result as well.
Back home and practising, Stan is hoping for that next big win, with many sure it'll come soon.
Stephen Henge played at the Crucible when he was about 17, and hopefully Stan could do something similar.
Where do you see your future going?
Hopefully, world number one, multiple world champion, multiple Masters champion and UK champion.
Not a lot then?
No, not really.
Big ambitions after a big break. He just needs to build on it. Sangeeta Lal, ITV News, Huddersfield.
Right, that's it from us for now. Julia will be here with news at 10. But for me and the whole of the evening news team, enjoy your evening. Bye-bye.